And I probably should have waited till after get this backing out, but I didn't. So here we are. But yes, I went live earlier with this topic though. She's so loud. We back live with this same topic because I really want to make sure that is understood. All right, so give me a second. Doing a little bit of driving, a little bit of figuring out in this beautiful sunshine though. And also at the same time listening to my GPS. So as I was saying before, I don't know how many of you were here for the beginning of the other live. We have two identities in the global north that we are allowed within the construct of white masculinist imperialism. And these two identities were constructed for us on purpose. Because in all actuality, when this place was created, the leader of the global north at the time was a black woman. So if you're familiar with the story of Queen Charlotte, it was a spinoff that was done for Bridgerton, and they talked about that black, say German ancestry, but I may be incorrect about that, but I know it was Portuguese. And I black, a black person, and they were painting the pictures lighter even than her actual skin color. So when I say black, I do not always mean of sub-Saharan African descent, because there are black people all over the world. But in this particular instance, I actually do mean of sub-Saharan African descent, because the way that her black ancestry was able to come through was due to the sub-Saharan African occupation of Europe at that time, most well known in Spain, but in Portugal as well. So I'm giving you this historical background, and I'm saying this to say, hold on, let me make sure that I'm historical background. Happy birthday, Oyatala Day. And I'm saying this to say that there was a reason that the mammying and the muling had to be constructed in the way that it was. And one of the reasons that black women had to be placed into those categories so stridently was because one of the biggest rulers and monarchs in the global north at that time was a black woman. So, what we see happening here, and I'm going to speak very United States centric right now, but the phenomenon that I'm speaking of is not limited to the United States and has never been limited to the United States. So please do not misunderstand me. But I am going to speak from my experience, so it's going to be United States centric. So in the United States of America, what you see happening is a huge influx of African women for the purpose of creating this empire. If you've taken any of my classes, then you know that they brought us here to create this empire on purpose, because we were understood to be the empire makers in West and Central Africa at that time, and also throughout Europe. Don't misunderstand it. Don't misunderstand who you are, what you are, and the power that you hold. So you were understood to be an empire maker, an empire creator. And so they knew if they were going to create their own empire here in what they now call the United States, they had to have black women at the foundation. However, if you do not create a slot of lesser, right, a lesser slot, a subordinate slot, I guess is the better word, for black women, then we're going to take over, because we are the empire creators. Hell, we the creators of the whole damn thing. And so a lesser slot, a subordinate spot was created for us. Hold on, guys, I gotta see which way I'm turning when I get to this intersection. Because she said it, but I was talking, so I did not hear. Okay, it is right. Now I'm about to go into this forest. And I don't know why I thought I had a longer amount of time before I made it to the forest, but hopefully I'm still able to be heard. So a subordinate slot was created for us. And so this subordinate spot still carries a huge amount of responsibility and power. I went to get my henna done and my henna is flaking off as it is supposed to. So if you guys see my little flakes, that's actually my henna, but the stain will pop up later on tonight and tomorrow. This beautiful henna that I have done for the conference that I'm about to go to, and my henna artist here in Atlanta, her name is Ink on Earth, spelled with 2 K's. Highly, 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 highly recommended. So a subordinate position was created for us. However, the subordinate position still contained all of the responsibility. So you have all of the responsibility, but somehow none of the power. You have all of the responsibility, but you get none of the reward. You have all of the responsibility, but you get none of the credit. That is the position that was created for us. So when we look at the positions of mammying, and when we look at the positions of muling, then all of the work of creating an empire, all of the work of creating a community, all of the work of holding a family together, all of the work of creating and maintaining institutions is placed up on the backs of Black women, but none of the credit is given. Usually, none of the pay is given, and none of the rewards are received. That was done by design because what was happening throughout Europe, what was happening throughout Western Central Africa, and what was happening in the Americas was that the originators, the source, the creatrixes, the Black women we had the responsibility, but we also had the reward, we also had the pay, and we also had the recognition. So it was understood that it was not going to work without us being at the forefront of it, without us creating it. It wasn't going to work. But what could not happen in order for white masculinist imperialism to be maintained was for us to get the credit or for us to get the payment. So these positions were created for that reason. Now I'm putting this information in your ear, Black woman, so that you can take the time and suss out the areas in your life where you are still doing this. Do you hear me? What are the areas in your life where you still doing this to yourself? Where you still are responsible for all of the work, you're responsible for all of the empire building, you're responsible for all of the creating, but you are not getting the credit, you are not getting the pay, and you are not getting the recognition. What are areas in your life where you're still doing that? In any area of your life where you are still doing that, you are acting as either, oh shit, a mammy or a mule. I missed that turn. Is that the turn? Anyway, she's gonna have to give me another turn. Thank you. That's what I thought. Because why would I be turning? Anyway, she's just trying to give me a quicker way. So, any area of your life where you're doing that, you are acting as a mammy or a mule. So let me give a short definition for each. So a mammy is the area that you are allowed to occupy as a Black woman when you are interacting with white society. That is a mammy. So you are expected to give free emotional labor, free sexual labor, free physical labor. You are expected to be constantly available. You are expected to be endlessly counseling, endlessly ministering. You are open for use at all times by the white community. In this capacity, you are understood to be a subordinate, you are understood to be less than human. Mammy is the position that you are allowed to hold within the white community. I have an entire ebook on this because this was the topic of my master's thesis. So once I am back at home and on my laptop, I'll put a link to the ebook in the description of this particular video. So if you want to study this further and if you want all of the academic book recommendations that I have, the bibliographic information, it's in my ebook that I wrote about this topic. So I'll put that in there. And remember, I'm having a 50% off sale, so the ebook will be 50% off. So buy one for yourself and for your friends. So that is that mammy position. That is the that's how that was constructed. And that is the space that you're allowed to hold in the collective consciousness of white people. In the white collective consciousness, a black female body immediately and as soon as it's seen, that body holds the position of mammy. This is why you will be somewhere, and if you're the only black woman there, people will expect you to be of service to them. Either they're going to ask you where something is, where can they go to get something. I don't believe that people think I work there. I don't believe that. I just believe that they see a black female body and they expect me to be of service. So they're going to ask you where something is, or what I actually hate worse is when people automatically start sharing their problems with me. I don't know you. I hate to hear the problems of motherfuckers that I don't know and that I have no connection with. Why do you think I can solve that or that I would want to? Right? Mammy position. I want you to think about any film, any major film that is a white film. The black woman holds the mammy position in that film. Now, this is different from the mule position. So, in the black collective consciousness, because remember, as I mentioned in my last video where I was talking about psychopaths, the black collective consciousness is constructed from an imitation of the white collective consciousness because we have been groomed in this place to believe that to be human is to be white and male, and that is by design. We are not wrong for believing that. That is by design. Those are the people who are treated as human in this place. So, in the black collective consciousness, diasporic African collective consciousness, the position that black women are allowed to hold is the muling position. So the muling position is similar to the mammying position in that we are expected to give free sexual labor, free emotional labor, free spiritual labor, and free physical labor to the black community. Now, what is added to that in the muling position is that we are responsible for, thank you, is that we are responsible for the upliftment of the race. That is our responsibility. So anytime we are acting outside of our capacity as a mule, then we are letting the entire race down. So that is what is the difference between those two constructions or constructs. So in the muling capacity, the same things happen, but the stakes are higher. So what I mean by that is you are responsible for everything. You are expected to create everything. You are expected to officiate. Not officiate. Officiate is not the term. You're expected to guide everything because officiate, an officiant is going to get the recognition. So you're not an officiant, but you are the guide of everything. You the person who comes up with the playbook, right? But you still ain't the coach. You're not understood to be the coach. But we are expected to do all of those things, and in addition to that, make sure that it is to the glory of the black community. While doing this, we receive no recognition. You receive little to no pay. You receive no you are not given the credit, and you are not understood to be the leader. Even though you are creating the thing, even though you are guiding the thing, even though the thing, hold on, let me check this. I'm way talking my cup. Even though the thing is understood to be your brainchild, you get no recognition for it, right? So, in that capacity, you are a mule. That is what it means to be a mule, and that is how I distinguish the two. So the issue then becomes how we define ourselves and what we use to define ourselves, and how we then, in our minds, conceive of our destiny. Because the problem with these two constructs is that very rarely are they interrogated. And what I mean by interrogated is very rarely do we question them. Very rarely do we question their origins. Very rarely do we question who they benefit. Who do these constructs benefit? As I have said before, we are taught that being a mule is our nature. That's what we're taught. Muling is your nature. You just want to do that. It's natural when you have a vulva, to want to do these things. It's natural to want to take care of everybody. I was listening, sometimes you'll be listening to people that you really, really like, and then they'll be talking all this shit about how a woman is just gonna nurture, she's just gonna do that just comes naturally. It's not a thing that comes naturally. It's something that you've been groomed to do. It's something that you've been socialized to do. Now, as a mother and a teacher, I have to tell you that the nature of human beings is nurturing. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that human beings are terrible people who do not naturally like to take care of each other. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the nature of human beings is nurturing. We naturally like to care for one another. It is not based upon your genitalia. Your desire to nurture is not based upon your genitalia. If you find that people with vaginas and vulvas appear to like to nurture more, I can assure you wholeheartedly that that is based on socialization. So because this is being told as natural, just the way you are, sometimes these days people are couching it in feminine energy or being in your feminine. Either way, when you feel the desire to take care of yourself, when you feel the desire to prioritize yourself, that comes with a huge load of guilt, because you have been taught that your duty to the world, white consciousness, and your duty to your race, black consciousness, requires you to give ceaselessly and selflessly of yourself. That's what you've been taught. That's what has been rammed into your head since before you were born. So what I want you to do after this video is to always interrogate spaces that want you to do all of this labor for free or for nothing. For free or for next to nothing, sorry. Right? For free or for almost free. Interrogate that. What are you getting from that? What do you get from that? If a black woman is doing labor for you and it is not a situation in which you can give her money, it's not that kind of place, it's not that kind of organization, make sure that you give her credit. Make sure that if it is within your place, that you bestow a title upon her. Make sure that you recognize the labor that she's putting in and give her her props for that amount of labor. Make sure that anyone else who comes into that organization shows her supreme respect for the amount of labor that she's put in. Do not use black women like this. If it's an organization in which it's inappropriate for money to be given, and there are organizations like that, give the person their props. Give the person their respect. And you yourself, make sure respect and props are being given. If it is a place where money can be given, then make sure that you're getting that. But if it's not, make sure that your respect and your props are given. That is the first thing. The second thing, stop within yourself the pattern of feeling guilty for prioritizing yourself. Stop feeling guilty for prioritizing yourself. If you've had a reading from me, and if you were going through financial difficulties, then I have told you and taught you to make sure that you let even your ancestors know the type of financial resources you require, right? Don't be out here struggling. Don't be out here trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. Don't be out here thinking that that's the norm for you and that that's just how it has to be. Interrogate the fact that you feel like that. I don't care what your field is. I don't care what your career is. If you're an artist, you still supposed to be living comfortably. If you're a writer, you're still supposed to live comfortably. You're a dancer, you're still supposed to live comfortably.